Alright, so the mic should be up. I'm going to get the sound adjusted on the game. Actually, that sounds like it is fine. And it's freaking out about my fucking thing. Do I have to set it up again? I do. Okay, so let's do this real quick. I had one all set up and it was nice and saved, but apparently the game decided that it didn't like my edits with the MC data moves, and so it deleted my thing. So let's go ahead and set that up real quick. 2 brackets, 1 finalist. This shouldn't take a ton of time. We'll go round favorite, and then I'm going to do them like that, just to make it quick and easy. And then this one will be that guy. And then count rush stock. And we've got one more for this. Coming down that way. Okay, so there's A bracket. Here we'll go B bracket. Then as soon as I have this set up, we'll go ahead and start taking questions. I think that I am on Dawn. Yes. Then Luther right. And Johnny Effigy. And finally, we will go Buddy York. And Johnny Favorite, or Jimmy Favorite. There we go. So entry finished. No, I want to set this to the gym, and the ring to my ring, and the referee to my referee. And settings, let's make sure that DQ count is on, tornado is off. Team, if I know of that. Good Lord. Okay. Return. Finally. There we go. Yeah, the edits. You're gonna be all autistic about it and pick out moves that they didn't do in the 70s voodoo, but yes, they're all generally 70s styled wrestlers. You know, it's a video game. I took liberties, so it's not perfect, but I think they all have a suitably old school feel to them, and we'll just leave it at that. So I'm going to turn on auto so that it just runs the matches when I start them. There we go. All right. Okay, well, yeah, the video on demand should be up on my Twitch for 2 weeks, and I'll transfer it over to YouTube since they started allowing us to do that. again, so it'll be on YouTube as well. So no rush, it'll be around. And thanks for joining us for a little bit, Sonny, just to say hi. And let me know if the volume on the game needs to go down, if it's drowning me out. I have the video volume, like the preview video. It has no volume over here, so I can't actually judge the mixing. So I'm relying on you guys to kind of let me know if it's too much. Thank you. Yeah, the nameplates are. I don't know. I think they add a lot to like a promotion. Like even if you're just running it for yourself, setting that stuff up can really make it feel more interesting. You know, I don't really stream this as like an eFed that everybody watches, but I like to have all that stuff set up. It just for me, you know. So, I don't think anybody is new. I don't have the chat log open exactly, or the user log, but I want to point out that I will answer pretty much any question that y'all have about Fire Pro, about wrestling, about hobbies, whatever. Doesn't really matter. I won't answer bug fix questions. I won't answer how do I set up the mod pack questions. I won't answer how do I use this mod questions unless they're general use questions and not specific to like your particular issue or something. So, you know, I just want to get that out of the way, and I'll probably reiterate that every once in a while just in case new people come in. Alright. So, Key Crusher is asking, what are your plans now that the game is complete? Honestly, I don't have any new plans. My plans have always been to do what I feel needs to be done. Things like that I have added recently, like the wrestler data tracker or manager for other users to basically add tracked data to wrestlers. That is something that you know, I wouldn't have done while they were still actively updating. It just could have caused a lot more problems than it needed to. Some of the workshop stuff that I've done recently, I was waiting for them to finish to really embrace workshop uploads. But, I mean, since I've done that, I don't really have any, like, outstanding plans or long-term plans. Just kind of adding things to the game as they seem, you know, as they come to me or they are suggested to me is really my only plan moving forward. And to fix bugs. And I still need to, even though we're slightly below the goal that I set on the Patreon, I still need to start working on the documentation again. So that's I guess that's a long-term plan. Hey Carl, would you ever want to join me for a podcast episode? Sure. I just have a shitty headset mic, so you know, if you're doing some kind of crazy professional podcast, I may not be the best guest audio-wise or audio quality-wise, but I'd be happy to join and talk about something. I don't know what you do exactly on your podcast, but if you review modern wrestling, I'd be happy to come and shit all over it. If you review old wrestling, I'd be happy to talk about that. If you talk about Fire Pro or whatever, I'd be happy to do that too. So, just, you know, if you are in the Discord, that's the best place to hit me up for that kind of thing. If you're not in the Discord, there will be you should be able to find a link to it on the Reddit page, the Fire Pro Reddit page. I never had a stretch goal for custom arenas. Key Crusher asked, you used to have a stretch goal on Patreon for custom arenas. Is that possible? I never had a stretch goal. I did post a little thing showing that I had pulled all of the arena like models and objects out, but I hadn't actually been able to put them together. Are they at 10? They are, weird. But yeah, so I haven't been able to get them together. So I like, well, I can pull them out. I can't actually do much with them, if that makes sense. Like, I could put them together in a 3D modeling program, but I can't get that model back in the game. That's the problem that I think every modder has had. I know Mike got some particle effects in the game when he did the Inferno match, but I don't think anybody's been able to get new models into the game. So yeah, right now that's kind of I guess a long-term sort of pie-in-the-sky dream as well, is to figure out how to get new models in the game, but so far we've had no luck. And that's kind of, you know, once we figure out how to do it, that it will be super easy and quick. And I think that a lot of people will probably take to making models, or maybe not a lot of people, but a good number of people. But the problem is, right now we don't know how to do it, so it's just not even possible. And as far as I know, no other modder has been able to do it either. Would you consider adding to the belt edit mode, even if it's just putting a set of static images in for the belt creator? So I've covered this before. So the belt edit mode uses sprite atlases, and sprite atlases are very hard to manipulate. And then on top of using sprite atlases, the edit mode and the images that show up in the UI are completely unlinked from one another. So what ends up happening is I can add stuff to the edit mode. What I can't add is stuff that shows up on the UI. So you could build a belt that looks however in edit mode, but you'd never see that belt outside of edit mode. And that kind of defeats the purpose of adding things to the belt edit mode. So right now, the answer is no. I've messed with it, and I've been messing with it for years, but because the UI uses like pre-packaged sprite atlases, there's not much that I can do to add to them. For the sound effects on the extended submission and other mods, do you have a recommendation for what to set sounds 1 to 5 for in general? So I have like a weird, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, like a convention that I use where sound 1 is sort of like the hissing, is one of like the hissing or like breath sounds. Sound 2 is usually like a lifting grunt or groan. Sound 3 will be like a bigger strike sound. Sound 4 will be a bigger lifting sound. And then sound 5 is just kind of up in the air. But that's my convention. And so the submissions mod that you're talking about, where, you know, they replay the sound when they wrench a submission, it will use whatever sound you assign to it, and if you don't have a sound assigned to it, it will use like a random sound. So really it doesn't matter, because if you don't assign a sound to the move, it's going to pick a random one anyway, so, you know, just whatever works for you, really. But yeah, that's my convention, is hissing noise, then striking noise, lifting noise, harder striking noise, harder lift or heavier lifting noise. So I think that this is maybe the second league I have ever run in Fire Pro World. I don't use the mode very often. I know I've set up a few because I've tested certain things in leagues, but this is like the one of the first ones I've ever ran just for the sake of running the league. But I figured it would be a good way to fill the background of the video while I talked over it. And again, if the mixing is off, if you can't hear me talk and the game is too loud, just let me know. I can't hear the final mix out, so I don't know how loud the game is to you people. Can anything like new weapons be added to Movecraft? There's a lot of blank P numbers. You know, I've never tried. It's possible. I don't want to say no, but honestly, I haven't tried. My guess would be no, because the weapons that are addable are set up differently than the weapons that aren't added. They actually have definitions as body parts, whereas the weapons that are not included do not have definitions as body parts. So I'm not sure that it would be just as easy as sort of just assigning the part numbers to a weapon or something. I think it would be quite a bit more difficult than that. So, but again, I haven't tried, so it's possible, but I wouldn't put my money on it if I was you. With regards to what about a custom PWGR menu for belt records with custom belt images? Yeah, I mean that would be ridiculously easy. But it's not really. I don't know. It's not the same to me. If people want to add belt images, I could add them into the what the hell is it called? The one that I already have, the title history editor. So you could go into the title history editor and look at your belt images. It would be very easy for me to add something like that to that. But I just didn't think anyone would be interested. So if y'all are interested in adding belt images to that and then using that to view all your belts, let me know. I'd be happy to do that. It wouldn't be a very hard thing to add. I just I guess, like I said, I never really thought of it because it just didn't seem like something people would be interested in. But I've been wrong before. I didn't think people would be interested in camera angles, and we had an Ask Me Anything, one of the first, I think it was the first one or the second one, where people brought up camera angles, and I was like, well, I mean, yeah, it's possible to mess with the cameras, but I just didn't think anybody would want that, so I've never done it, and it turned out that everybody wanted it, so, you know, I've been wrong before. Dan, is it possible questions are fine? Would it be possible to make a mod similar to the Move Always Crits, but instead more like a guy is always critted by? So what I'm imagining is, for example, you had an ongoing storyline of a guy returning from a neck injury. You could set it so certain pile drivers resulted in a crit specifically on him, but otherwise behave as normal on everyone else. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, that would be doable. It's kind of a silly, super specific mod, but definitely a possibility. I don't think it would take very long to do either. So, just one of those things that I'd have to get done. Oh shit, that was a move steal. The float over suplex is the guy who just lost the match's finisher. Nice. I just caught that. Would it be possible to add global downtime to moves that down, like a 1 count worth, to get back to more old school selling? I've tried to avoid adding stuff like that because it kind of kills the way the engine works, in my opinion. Yeah, it's totally possible to just add, any time a move ends in a down, to just add downtime. But it's just, I'm not really sure that people would like the result, if that makes sense. So it's one of those things that I'd be kind of weary or leery to do. I think the general idea is good, but in practice it may not play out quite as nicely as you would think it would. Yeah, ultra niche. I think that's kind of where everybody's at, is kind of the ultra niche things these days. I've done a lot of the more large scale moves and mods that people, or the mods that people wanted. So, is there a video tutorial for customizing arena and logo? Not really. I think that Good did one, Gaming Under Development here, and I think he's Gaming Under Development or Good on YouTube as well, and I think that he has one. If you're in the Discord, there's a whole tutorial channel for Good's tutorials. So I recommend checking there. If you're not in the ModPack Discord, if you go to Reddit, the FirePro subreddit, it is linked up at the very top of the subreddit where all the links are. You can find it there. I can post it in the chat real quick if you give me a second. Let me go grab an invite. Setup. I have to change it so that I get the one that never expires, because there's no point in grabbing one that expires. Okay. So here I can post the link in here in case you're not a member of the Discord. There you go. But yeah, Good has a tutorial on arena editing or venue editing a little bit. I don't know how in-depth it is. It's been a little bit since I watched it, and I think I kind of skipped through it because I'm already fairly familiar with it. But I think that you'll get the gist of it. His tutorials are usually pretty good, and pretty good for beginners, so that's why we made him the tutorial czar. Because I usually am pretty... I make a lot of assumptions that people know how things work, and so I'm not always the greatest with tutorials. Although I'm trying to be more beginner friendly. But it can be hard because, I'm writing all the code for everything, so I know exactly how everything works. And it can be hard to forget, it can be easy to forget that not everybody has that information. So... I didn't expect this in the first round. These two are both tag team wrestlers who have been feuding with one another, and it just kind of randomly happened that they ended up in the in the opening round of matches together against one another. The game itself isn't exactly beginner friendly either. That's true. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing though, is not everybody comes into FirePro expecting a steep learning curve, and then some people can tackle the learning curve of FirePro, and then the learning curve of modding just for some reason wrecks them. And so, when you put the two of them together, you can get some pretty interesting combinations of people who are absolutely willing to fucking slog through all of the missions to gain an S rank, but they're not willing to add they're not willing to add a wrestler to a list to get them to do whatever it is that they want them to do. They want me to somehow do it for them or read their mind or whatever. It's pretty, you get some pretty crazy people around with regards to how things work and how they expect them to work. What mods are obsolete now? Example, Desperation Finishers. So, yeah, Desperation Finishers is obsolete. I would say that Rest Holds is obsolete. You probably use move lists. I mean, you can use Rest Holds if you want, but really, when I started adding Can Finish Match to move lists, made it obsolete. I know some people have had some issues with move lists lately, but I don't know. You know, I haven't been able to recreate them, so, you know, definitely those two. I would say the original Ring Announcer mod is sort of obsolete by the Ring Intro Builder, but some people probably still like just being able to throw an MP3 in there and not having to think about it anymore. So, you know, that may not be as obsolete as I think it is. I think that's just about it, honestly. I think the rest of them are still pretty useful. I know that some of them I stopped using because I found, like, the Sweat mod can cause some issues with memory, so I stopped using that. You know, but I wouldn't say it's obsolete. It still does what it's supposed to do, and nothing has replaced it. It's just the implementation of it didn't work out quite as nicely as I had hoped. But it's still there for people who want to use it and who aren't having problems with it. I don't know if the asymmetry mod is obsolete. It's just not really. It just doesn't work with the mod pack anymore. I still haven't figured out how to do asymmetry, aside from just copying what Alaska Malamute or Malamute or something like that is the guy who created the asymmetry mod. He's not really a part of the modding community. He just kind of writes his own stuff. And for that reason, he doesn't really try to make things that work together with the mod pack. He just kind of does his own thing. And so, you know, yeah, the asymmetry mod, I haven't been able to figure out another way to do it that's better than his, so I haven't messed with it. But it definitely is not compatible with the mod pack. And so, I don't know if obsolete or just not worth using, because you lose out on all of the mod pack features if you want to use the asymmetry mod. I know Dakota K does the he really liked the asymmetry stuff and was willing to give up some of the mod pack stuff to be able to use asymmetry, but I think he's one of the only users that really went that route. So I'm answering Voodoo's question here. I noticed there were a couple of special skills in the extra skills menu that aren't there anymore, like Sprinter. What happened to those? So, about a month ago, I had a catastrophic hard drive failure, and the last backup I had of the mod pack code was about a month before that, or 2 months before that. So I basically had to recreate everything that I lost, and a couple of those extra special skills I forgot to add back into the list. The code still exists, but I just didn't put them in the list to be selectable. And I fixed that. It's in one of the test versions has that fixed. So if you're on the test path, they should be there now. But and if they're not, let me know, because they're there on my end. So I do need to upload a new test version here soonish. I added a couple of things recently, just simple things, and made a couple of fixes to things like the move ringside preview crashing if you used it twice. because it'd give you a null reference error no matter what you did, and I fixed that. So, but yeah, so that's kind of what's going on with that. They weren't lost; they were just stupidly forgotten to be put back. The MS is going fine. I still have very little feeling in my hands, but it's been, I want to say like 9 months now. It happened in March, so what is that? That would be 7 months. So in 7 months, I've just kind of learned how to. I've had to relearn how to do things like type with numb hands, but I would say that I'm proficient at it again, so it's not as bad as it used to be, or when it first happened. And I'm managing, so. But other than that, it's going okay. Spear finish, huh? Oh, and he's just kicking the shit out of him after the match, huh? So Dakota K is giving us an update on the asymmetry mod. So apparently it worked with the mod pack, and I do remember that because I worked on this stuff with him privately, about trying to get entrance stuff and asymmetry stuff to work, and I had all kinds of weird private builds trying to get it to work, and he was testing them for me, and it never worked. But apparently it just completely stopped working after one of the updates, so yeah, I'm not surprised. I don't know what update it would have been, but there have been a couple of updates that made some changes to entrances and rendering and stuff, but like I said, I don't know what happened to that guy. I don't know if he's still around. I don't know if he's ever going to fix it, or maybe he has already fixed it on his end. I don't know. I wish that he would have been a bigger part of the mod community, maybe, because then, we could have bounced things off of each other and worked together to make sure that things work together or whatever. But, yeah, he did his own thing, and I don't even know if he's still playing Fire Pro at this point. I haven't seen him pop up in the workshop at all or anything. But yeah, the edits that I have going on here are... The one thing that I don't like about Fire Pro is that there are way too many opportunities for striking. And so, in old school wrestling, faces didn't really strike very much, or they weren't supposed to. It was something that was built up to. When, the face finally punched the heel because the heel was being, heelish, it was a big deal. And it was something that was milked, and, they played up to it. But in Fire Pro, you can't really do that. And so, all of the edits, even the faces, ended up being pretty brawl heavy. Because I also don't want them doing big, and I mean, for me, with these edits, a vertical suplex is like a big move. It's on the large damage, and so I wanted to avoid having to rely on sort of middle damage moves, and so that made them a little more brawl heavy than even they would be normally, even though Fire Pro is kind of meh for making edits that don't brawl. So that's probably my biggest complaint with doing old school edits. Yeah, but that's... Voodoo suggests I could have them spam wrestling moves and disable exchange and not strike at all. Eh, I feel like that's even more boring to watch than having faces that strike, just because even with Movecraft, there just aren't enough. If there isn't enough variation in wrestling moves, and I refuse to have them use the MMA transitions, just because I don't feel like they're not set up for a wrestling match. And so yeah, I just would prefer not to have them do that. View asks, so what are the plans for the new set of tutorials moving forward? A slower build up to creating fancier stuff, more Hello World type components. So right now I did the Hello World, which was the very beginning one, and that's probably the only one of those I will do. So everything from here on out will be useful. We did the exploding cage, the no ropes exploding cage, and then right now I'm working on making the wrestler rank matter in grapples, so it will be less random who wins a grapple. And that the basic tutorial on that went up yesterday night, and I think tomorrow at some point there will be I will go over it again, and we'll talk about how to save from the form and reload the values that were saved and that sort of thing. So hopefully they will get progressively fancier, and it's not just a whole bunch of pointless Hello World type things. But we'll just have to see. You know, it really just depends on what I think of, to be honest. Any way to allow for an off-the-top turnbuckle move onto a downed opponent outside the ring? No, they're not animated for that. They would... I think we've actually tried this, and it just... Yeah, it doesn't work. They don't ever connect. But yeah, you can turn them on, and I can jump... I've done it to test things a bunch of times. But yeah, they never actually connect, and so it's kind of pointless. And making them connect would require reanimating all of them, and nobody's going to do that. And animating them to work off the top rope to the outside means they don't work from the top rope to the ring. It's the same reason there's actually a different category for jumping off the top of the cage and jumping off the top rope. Because if just random top rope moves worked off the cage, then they're not set up the same way, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah. And so it would be the same thing for off the top rope to the outside. Regular moves are just not set up for that, so it wouldn't work. Any mod ideas you thought were possible but had to give up on because you just couldn't get it working? Yes. Lots. Too many to name. Like I said, I've had no luck putting new models in the game, and I've tried. I've used the parts that I pulled out of the resources.assets file to build new arenas and try to put them into the game, replacing, and sort of the same way that you replace a texture, where it just replaces it as it loads it. But I've had no success, and I just kind of gave up on that. But yeah, there's too many to name. The biggest one is most of my attempts at loading new models. I'm trying to think if there was any other major ones. I'm sure there were, and I'm just not thinking of them right now. You also have Voodoo says that he's been comfortably MMA positioning for quite a while now, which is fine. You like your edits to do that. I don't like my edits to do that. Again, the engine is not set up for wrestling edits to do that. You can lie to yourself and tell yourself it works. You can gimp your edits by setting them up so that it does work by restricting it and all kinds of other crap, but it's just not for me. I don't want to run my edits that way. If you want to do all the workarounds to make it work, that's awesome, but it's not designed for wrestling, and anyone telling you that it's designed for wrestling is full of shit. I've looked at the code, I've looked at the engine, the stats are different, it's set up differently, it's meant for a different situation, the matches have different rules behind the scenes, it's not meant for that. And so I'm not gonna sit around and play with my edits to make that work when it's just all it is essentially like band-aids and workarounds. And if you want to do that, that's great, and I'm all for that. I'm not telling you you're wrong for doing that. I'm just telling you that, yeah, they're not meant for wrestling matches, and I'm just not in the mood to fuck with it in that way, I guess. Too much work to make it work properly for me. Dakota points out that you could do diving moves to downed opponents as corner grapples, and yeah, you absolutely could. That would probably be the best way to do that if you wanted to do that, would be to animate... I mean, fuck, you could even splice things, basically, where you just throw them out of the ring, splice in the turnbuckle climb animation, and then splice in the jump, the move animation, and make it land slightly lower. So yeah, you could probably absolutely do that as a corner move, and that would be a lot easier. UI replacement mod, question mark. I actually tried that and gave up on that. The issue is when the UI is loaded, all of that stuff is baked into the scene, so it's not loaded in the code, it's just loaded when the scene is loaded. And there is no, like, event for, if there was an event for asset loaded or something along those lines, I could do it, but there isn't. And so I tried to hook into the load asset Unity thing, but that didn't work because the one that I would need to hook into is actually programmed outside of a managed language, so I can't see it or hook into it. The patcher won't be able to read it. I can't read it in ILSpy. So yeah, that one has been a give up. Would it be possible to create a mod connected to the entrance craft that would allow teams to run to the ring if their single entrance is walking? So you mean like if they're in a team to change their movement speed? Yeah, sure, that would be possible. I don't know whether I would take up that mod. Maybe in a tutorial to show people how to mess with the entrance data. But, I mean, honestly, I guess I probably wouldn't use it, so I'm probably not going to take it up, just as a mod pack feature. But yeah, I think that would be possible, and I think that maybe a future tutorial would be, that would be fine for a future tutorial or something. But that would mean that someone else would have to make it. UABE method, Unity asset bundle extractor method is rather easy for UI replacement. I agree. I know some users have like 4 different versions of the game, and I put versions in air quotes, but you can't see me, so it didn't matter that I did that. But I'm telling you so. But honestly, if you have more than one menu, then that's really on you. You're welcome to do that, and I'm just laughing because it's just impractical. Why? I mean, I guess I don't even see the point in replacing the menu the first time. But I know a lot of users like to do it, and it's a thing. But Yeah, I mean, having multiples or needing an auto replacement type thing is just sort of, I don't know, it just seems like I don't even know what the word for it is. Decadent. It's too decadent. So, I mean, but yeah, it got really doing it programmatically got really difficult, and so yeah, I gave up on that. So UABE, that's one of its only real uses at this point, is to replace the UI. I think almost everything else that people want to replace on a regular basis for it is replaceable through the mods, but that's one that I don't know ever will be. Would it be possible for the move lifts mod to auto-refresh the moves in a particular slot when a move is added? You know, I could actually have it refresh when you load it in that menu. When you press the button essentially and it pops up the move list, there's absolutely no reason it can't refresh. I'm gonna sound like a complete asshole here, but I've actually never thought of it. I don't know what the fuck just happened there. Sorry, watching the video and talking at the same time. That was just an awkward thing going on. Anyway, so yeah, I've never thought of it. Totally possible. Absolutely reasonable to have it do that. I just never... I never thought of it, so it doesn't do that currently. But I think that probably after this AMA, it will do that, because that makes a lot of sense. Tie the UI replacement to save selection. That's actually what I was trying to do. Like I said, the issue is that the files are not loaded through load asset or resources.load asset, or so I can't actually catch when they're loaded, and so that becomes a problem. And I don't want to have to put a basically like a watcher in every single like awake thing that might load something from the UI. So yeah, that seems like it would be not so good. But yeah, that was the idea, was to tie it to save selection. Yeah, I think all programmers do that. As we all of our brains work differently. We all think of different things at different times, and yeah, sometimes it takes somebody else being like, "Hey, why doesn't it do this?" And you're like, "Holy shit, I just never thought of it, but that's a great idea." And that's pretty much how that works. Sometimes I'll be in the Discord and somebody be like, "Is it possible for this to happen?" It's like, yes, not only is it possible, it should have been doing that all along. And so, yeah, you just kind of have to roll with it and, I guess, hang your head in shame that you didn't think of it and go fix it so that it works the way that it ought to. Would you be able to stop the apron slingshot cheese? The CPU comes to the apron every single time, and you can hit your flying attack without them even being dizzy. I don't even know what that means. No. If you stop them from going to the apron, then you'd never see any apron grapples. And I'm going to be honest, I'd rather see apron grapples than... Because the CPU will almost never do a flying attack from the apron to the ring unless the opponent is dizzy. So the only group of people that would benefit are people who play the game. And I'm going to be honest, if you play the game, then you have a much better way of stopping apron cheese than I do, which is to not do your fucking apron to ring move every single time. So no, I can't do that because it would ruin the idea. It would ruin the apron grapples, and I'm not willing to give up apron grapples to have people not be able to jump from the ring every time because the AI isn't going to do that. So it's really only a problem if you play, and it's really only a problem if you play and have no self-control. So, I guess my solution to your problem is have better self-control. An iron will, if you will. Can we get rid of the goddamn CPU bonks? Are you talking about where they run into the turnbuckle? I'd need to be... You'd have to go a little more specific there. Or when they run into each other. If it's running into each other, no. That's just part of the computer, or part of the AI. I mean, fuck, I do it constantly, even when I'm playing, just because I don't know the timing of certain things. So, but if you're talking about running into turnbuckles, I think that's something that could probably be eliminated. I'd really have to look into it, though. I don't... The ring collision data and ring positioning is something that I am not super familiar with. It's one of the parts of the engine that uses a lot of math, and I'm not... And it uses a lot of math based on the scale that they decided that everything is in. And I am not super familiar with either of those things, so I haven't really dug into it. So if you're talking about the turnbuckle bonks, then it's probably doable, but it would require a lot of work on my part. And if you're talking about running into each other, then no, that's just kind of part of the game. Did a rebound bonk? Oh, they ran into each other and fell down. Yeah, I saw that. But yeah, no, I hate the turnbuckle ones. I have no problem with them running into each other. That's just kind of... I mean, they do it in wrestling. Obviously, it happens more often in Fire Pro than it does in real wrestling. But, I mean, Fire Pro's a video game. You just kind of have to roll with its limitations. 4 stars. All right. I probably should have turned off the entrance attire, but I didn't think about it. But yeah, it's just one of those weird quirks that, you know, if you don't... Move lists makes them happen more often, I'm not gonna lie. It doesn't cause them, but if it's trying to figure out the distance where the move needs to start, and the move is changed, if it's not a static move, then it becomes even harder for the engine to figure it out, and whatnot. So, it's just one of those things that I think we all have to put up with. I think the game does an okay job of, bonks and non-bonks, as long as you understand that it's, a video game and isn't perfect. But, yeah. So that's kind of where they're at. And before Voodoo points out the fact that this wrestler uses, the takedown, yes, he does. He's the only edit that I have that uses this stuff. And he's like a Olympic wrestler, so it makes more sense in that sense. It's a gimmick thing, not a style thing, I guess, is the way to put it. It fits his thing, but it doesn't fit every other wrestler. I'm going to stand this referee up again because he's been down forever. I don't know what causes that bug. That bug has been able to elude me forever. What's the most impressive thing you've seen on the workshop? I don't know. I don't... I'm gonna sound like an asshole, but you know, I like what I like from the workshop, but nothing really impresses me on the workshop, if that makes sense. Like, I guess everything that people have done that they've uploaded to the workshop is fairly, you know, it is what it is. You know, it's using the tools in the game to make something, and that's cool, and I enjoy a lot of it, but none of it impresses me because it's all just stuff that you could do with the tools. I think some of the stuff that the guy who was not posting on the workshop but was posting to Twitter, the Japanese player, who was doing the crazy, like, jumps off of the, you know, the balcony and the elevator and stuff, like, those were legitimately impressive. Like, they were impressive stuff. I'd never use them, and they're stupid, but they were legitimately impressive. The stuff that ends up on the workshop, you know, I think my favorite thing that ever got uploaded to the workshop is the Native American headdress that I use for my Native American wrestler, just because I never thought I'd see one of those in Fire Pro. Other than that, there's not much on there that I'm like, well, holy shit, you know? So, yeah. That's kind of where I am with the workshop. Is there a mod to tone down the CPU interruptions during tag team matches? Yes, there is a mod. I didn't actually write that mod, though. I believe that Ace wrote a mod that deals with cut play and when cut play can occur, and it gives you better options for controlling cut play, which is the mechanic where the partner will come in and interfere. So if you're interested in cut play options, you might want to check into Ace's mod. You can find it on the Discord server, which I linked earlier, and I will link again, just in case people are in here and they are not part of the Discord server. You can go ahead and join there. But yeah, so that's that would be where to look for that. I've never... Eggmania is saying that in the tag team mod, they don't attempt double team grapples, which I'm not seeing. Is anyone else having that problem? Because I've tested quite a bit recently because I tweaked the corner grapple mod a bit, and I still saw double team grapples no problem. So yeah, I don't know what you're talking about there.
6, 10 minutes, 7,
8. Hey Carl, for the entrance wait time on Kurokuen, why does the camera focus on the wrestler instead of... Because that's where the camera is when the entrances start. I didn't change them and have no interest in changing them. That's just where the camera is when the wrestler enters. And that's not going to change. Someone else could write something that fixed the camera placement, but I'm not going to. It doesn't bother me enough to really mess with the cameras, because then you'd have to also reset it back to where you wanted it to be some other time in the entrance, if you understand what I'm saying. So yeah, I'm going to leave them alone. I don't want to mess with having to move them back and all that other stuff. Alright, we were talking about a Scottish clit. I can pass on that. Okay, yeah. So other people have seen double team grapples. Yeah. So I don't know what the issue that you're having, Eggmania, but other people, I have noticed that there's still plenty of double team grapples. They are still random. They still depend on the AI settings for cooperation and all of that stuff. So yeah, I really don't know what issue you might be having. And then I fixed double team corner grapples, so when I push a new test version, you should see a lot more of those than you used to, because now when the wrestler gets Irish whipped into the corner and someone follows him in, and the other guy gets in the ring and grapples him, that other guy will wait for the partner to come before he attempts a grapple for up to 3 seconds. So not forever, but so there will be some waiting now that makes. So that you will see more of the double team corner grapples instead of just grapples in the corner that happen from the illegal man. So that should be nice, but that won't be until I release another test version. I've made a couple of changes between these test versions, and I've been slow on the release of a new one for whatever reason. I didn't no, the computer failure did not remove Control F for load edit, or for edit searching, but one of the updates made it a lot harder to do. So I may have removed it at some point. I don't even remember. I don't use it very often ever since they basically fixed the way that the load screen works. But I'm pretty sure that I have used it in the workshop menu and it still works there. So yeah, I think that on the edit load screen I may have removed it because it just seemed unnecessary when they reorganized it. Have I checked out Mount & Blade with any kind of regularity in the last little while? No. I'm sort of waiting for them. Right now, I really enjoy Mount & Blade 2, but I kind of want them to finish up some of the systems that they promised for, that would differentiate it from Mount & Blade 1. And so I'm just sort of waiting for like that major update that finishes the crafting stuff, that adds some of the player options for running a town that are more in depth than the what they have now, that sort of thing. And then I'll probably give it another go. I still really enjoy it. It's just not something that I have put a lot of time into recently. I've been busy golfing. I got PGA Tour 2K21, and if I'm gonna play a game like that isn't Fire Pro and I'm not writing, and I'm not writing code or something, I'll probably play golf. So that's what I've been doing. Are there any mods you wanted to rewrite in terms of additional features? All of them. I don't even know about additional features, but so the mod pack has been a thing that's grown over the last 3 years. And so a lot of those original mods are wildly inefficient, just because we were all learning how to mod, what the best practices for modding were, that sort of thing. And so yeah, a lot of old mods could probably be completely redone. But the thing is that no one is complaining about performance. And the game has had almost no issues with just running them the way they are. They're not wildly, inefficient in the sense that the code just runs too much stuff. It's just, you could probably clean them up with less static. Right now, basically, all of the old mods use static arrays. Anytime I needed to add something to a wrestler, like, for instance, the original version of move lists just used a static array of 8 for that held the wrestler's move list information. I've changed that recently to get it to work in Royal Rumbles, where I'm using the wrestler data manager to store the move lists on the wrestler, so that they can be used in the Royal Rumbles and then reset properly. But yeah, a lot of the old methods was just to write an array of 8 because you couldn't have more than 8 wrestlers, and then fill in the ones that were active. And so yeah, it was gross and inefficient, but it works. It's not like it's like vastly more work for the computer to deal with or anything. It's just it's grosser looking, in my opinion, and just kind of not the way that I would prefer to do it. So, but no, I'm not going to do any kind of code cleanup or anything. It just, if they work, they work, and I'm not going to fiddle with them. Some of them it's been so long since I've wrote them, I don't even remember how I accomplished what I accomplished. I mean, I'm sure if I went back and look at the code, I could figure it all out again, but it's like, I cringe when people are like, I found a bug in this 3-year-old mod, and I'm like, fuck, now I'm going to have to go back and figure out how I did this so I can fix it. So, no, I don't know whether they'd be harder to maintain, really. They're about the same. It's just more, what they say about code. A code that you haven't looked at in a week may as well not even be your code anymore. And that's true of a lot of the older mod pack stuff. It's there, and I'm looking at the mod pack on a daily basis, but I'm not looking at every method in every class. So there's a lot of stuff that I haven't looked at in quite a while. So, I don't know whether cleaning that up would make it any easier on me, really.
7,
Yeah, I heard that Senator was having some problems with mods. I don't know what Senator's problems are. He honestly hasn't been around in the Discord with me at the same time in probably about 3 or 4 weeks since he really started using the mods. So I don't know, and I'd be happy to help him with it if we could get together at the same time, But it's just, yeah, we've been missing each other, so I honestly don't know what his problem is, or if it's been just a setup issue, or what, or if he's got too much stuff running in the background, or
0 seconds.
yeah, I just don't know. Yeah, that's the thing, is like, slowdowns where, does he have logging on? Maybe he turned on the log file and he shouldn't have, because I've said it a million times, if you're not helping me, if you haven't had an error and now you're trying to catch the error, there's no reason for logging to be on. You shouldn't just leave it on. It eats resources like crazy, depending on which mods you're running. So yeah, I mean, it could be a lot of things, and I'm just gonna have to sit down with him, and we'll have to figure out what's going on together, that sort of thing. It's because it could be something simple, it could be something more nefarious, it could be something fixable, it could be that his computer is just old. I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, like I said, I haven't even been able to talk to him about it. Something just made some noise. Oh, I'm getting a Facebook message. That's what's making noise. Okay, well, I can ignore that for a second. From scripts, interested if save files for story mode are just a list of variables and values, and if a file can be copied and renamed to carry over, as long as the stories no, because it also stores like the node that you're on and that sort of thing. So no, they can't. Scripts, they cannot be copied over, and between save files. I may be able to allow something along the lines of being able to import the variable data from an old save file, but I'd have to work on that. That's something that is not supported at the current time, and I may add it if it's important to you, but right now it's not possible. So gaming under development, it's not a big deal. If you've left logging on and you haven't had a problem with it, then you're fine. It's just for some people, their computer has a slower hard drive, or because literally it's writing to a file every single time that it logs. Every single message that comes up needs to be written to a file, and the file saved. And so, if you've got a slower, older hard drive that you're running the game from, or something like that, then yeah, you're gonna see a hit. For most people, it's not gonna be a big deal. The issue is that I can't tell what kind of computer you're running, so I can't tell you. I can't tell you that it's not going to be a big deal and to go ahead and leave it on. So I just sort of, as a blanket statement, tell people to turn it off. So.
1, 2, 3.
But yeah, that's kind of if you haven't had an issue with log files, I wouldn't worry about it. If you've left it on and haven't noticed any slowdown, then you're probably fine.
5 minutes gone.
It's my wife on Facebook, so I totally should not ignore that. So I may be switching back and forth, for a couple of seconds each time y'all hear a ding. I apologize, but you know what they say, happy wife, happy life, so. Yeah, I would definitely say that it's better to run with the logging off, in general. Are there any mods that you would like to see people use more often? I assume story mode is one, but are there any others? No. I don't even care if people use story mode. I added it because it was a challenge for me. It was interesting. And I thought, well, fuck it, let's see if I can do this any better than Spike did it. Obviously I can't integrate it into the game quite as nicely, but let's see if I can do this any better than Spike did. And so I worked on my version of it, and if people use it, that's awesome, and if not, that's fine too. I don't care. I did it because I had a good time doing it, which is why I write the mods in the first place. I enjoy programming, and so yeah, that's just kind of. I don't write mods that I don't want to. For the most part, I will work on commissions sometimes. People will ask for things, and I'm like, I really have no interest in doing that, and they'll be like, well, I'll pay you to do it, and it's like, I'm not going to turn down money. But generally speaking, I don't work on things that I don't, that I have no interest in working on. So, Carl, is programming your day gig too? I'm curious. No, I actually have a degree in secondary education and a degree in history, and I was getting my license for teaching when I ended up with the MS stuff and everything. So no, my my job is basically being at home right now because I have been unable to finish my licensing, and it will be secondary education in history, and then so this is just a hobby. It's just what I do when I want to have fun. I do write code for money from time to time, so freelance sort of stuff. Yeah, and sometimes what I've been asked to do is, some local business will have like a database system or a point of sale system that somebody wrote in old Visual Basic, and they want me to tear it apart and redo it, and that can be a giant, kind of pain in the ass. And but I'll do code for that stuff, but generally it's just like one-off sort of jobs that pay, and then you're done. I'm not working for anybody as a coder. I've been writing code for, let's see, I was in 7th grade when I got my first QBasic, and I am 38 now. So let's see, my son is in 7th grade, and he is 12 or 13, he's almost 13. So, I was probably about 13 years old when I started writing code, and I'm 38, so I've been doing it for 25 years, so I have quite a bit of experience, I would say. My wife wanted to know what a BLT sub at Subway looks like. And my answer was a sub with bacon, lettuce, and tomato. Let's see if I could find a picture of the Subway BLT. Okay, so copy image, paste. There we go. I sent her a picture of the Subway BLT. I never did machine. Machine language is gross. I have fucked around a little bit with assembler. Also a very gross language that I am not interested in continuing with. She says, "Ew, that ain't a BLT." But yeah, I never really... I started with QBasic, and then I graduated to QuickBasic, which is basically QBasic, but it's able to compile into an executable file instead of running from the development program. And then I got into Visual Basic, and then C++, and then Visual C++, and then C#. So that was kind of my... And then I learned Java last year, but I don't really like Java. I mean, it's really similar to C#, but I don't like the fact that it requires the runtime environment to run. I don't like not being able to compile my code into an executable file and distributing it that way. So, yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't hate Java. Java would be fine, and I'm sure that there are ways to compile Java into an executable file. Java was fine. It's basically C#. The one thing that I did like about Java more than C# is I like that enums were their own structure. Like, you could put methods into an enum in Java, but in C Sharp and C and C++, and the enum is literally just it's a fancy integer. And I'm not a huge fan of the fancy integers. They're super, super handy, and I use them a lot. But, I'd like them to have more features, I guess you could say. So, yeah. Yeah, that font hates that guy's name. So, that finishing move, it's essentially the Polish hammer. But yeah, the guy that you just watched, the black dude, his name is Luther Wright, and his concept is that he is an ex-pro boxer. But he's a face, so he's a really brawl-heavy face. He throws a lot of punches. He uses that double hammer fist as like one of his finishers. Any mods other than the UI replacer you wanted to get to work but just couldn't get to work? Yeah, somebody asked that already in this AMA. There have been many. 3D models are one as well. Like I've had completed, like brand new arenas built up based on the parts that I pulled out of FirePro, and I cannot get the game to load models for whatever reason. There may be a specific model structure that I'm not following because I don't have the Unity projects to look through to see if there are like specific tags that things need or that sort of thing. But yeah, so there have been quite a few. The UI replacer is one. The models are one. I'm sure that there's others that didn't work. So, but yeah, there have been at least 3 or 4 that I've spent a significant amount of time on and realized that this just doesn't work. So I was almost at that point with the next tutorial video that the last one that I released and the one that I'm still working on with people. I was having a lot of trouble because it was going to interfere. I had overwritten the entire method that you need to hook into to make the no grapple animations work for the mod pack, and there was no way to do it before that override. So there was almost no way to do that, and I had written most of the code, and it was like, fuck me, this isn't going to work. But I found a way around that, so... What's the mod that's probably the most work for the least amount of actual in-game benefit? Honestly, the cosmetic mods. I know that people really like them, but things like Arena Texture Replacer, I mean, those are a lot of work, and they don't change anything about the game. Yeah, it makes stuff look different, but it doesn't matter whether shit looks different or not. I mean, it's nice, and I use it, but it has no real in-game benefit. So I'd say those. Can we recode the engine to use Steiner math for CPU logic? No. I'm not sure that Scott Steiner could repeat Steiner math. As you know, an AI has to have boundaries, and things need to be repeatable. I don't think that Steiner math is repeatable. In fact, I'm pretty sure that if you took 1/3 of the repeatability of Steiner math and multiplied it by 2/5 of the chance of it being repeatable, and then worked it so that it was like 95% repeatable, it would still be 0% repeatable. That's how Steiner math works. That said, when I see scrubs using vanilla textures, I turn those streams off. Um, yeah, I get that way too. I'm an asshole about my Fire Pro. I think that there is no good reason to be. I do the same thing when people do not have a sound pack installed. Like if they're using the vanilla Fire Pro sounds, I'm like, I'm done with this. This just no. Who wants to see this shit? Put more time into your stuff, dude. Uh, but I know that some people put a lot of time into their stuff and don't have custom textures and custom sounds. But I certainly feel that way. Or if they're still using like the default nameplates, I get like really offended. It's just like, who the fuck wants to see this? Like, well, why are you even bothering to stream this live to people? It's garbage. You just booted up the game. Stop it. But we all have different tolerances for that sort of thing. And people can do what they want. I mean, if they don't want to put that much effort into it, and they stream it, and other people are still enjoying it, who am I to tell them they're wrong? I mean, it's my right to shit all over it, but they can do their own thing. Yeah, Dan's sound pack. Like when I lost everything, I also lost Fire Pro. And Dan's sound pack was like the first thing that I tracked down to reinstall. Before arena textures, before anything like that, I went and got Dan's sound pack because I just have no interest in playing the game with the vanilla sounds. Don't yuck their yum, but also yuck their yum. Is it? It's like. Is it really yum, though? It's more like just kind of Soylent Green, where, you're just eating it because it's got what you need, and then you're fucking done. So, it's really don't yuck their Soylent Green. And Soylent Green is kind of yucky, just by the very definition of Soylent Green. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm really liking, so I know that we had custom moves, for a long time with the mod pack, but I'm really liking a lot of the fact that so many people really took to the move creator, because, for a long time it was the running joke between in the move team, the people who had access to the old Wazamake, that no one was going to use this. Like, it's really cool, but no one is going to use this, and it turns out that once they kind of cleaned it up, we were absolutely wrong. And I am so happy that we were wrong, because there's just so much cool stuff now. That, even if you put like 3 or 4 custom moves on a wrestler, it can make such a difference if you don't reuse those custom moves on other wrestlers, And it's just really nice. I have I took to Wazamake and I made some stuff because there weren't very many of us doing it, and so it didn't matter whether you sucked at it quite as much. But I suck at it, so I don't mess with it too much. It's just not. It's too detail-oriented for me. Like, I have a detail-oriented mind for programming, but when it comes to, like, visual stuff, I can't draw. I can't do arts and crafts. But when it comes to, like, words and things, despite how my speech is, with lots of ums and things and stuffs, but when it comes to writing and that sort of thing, I'm good at that. But with visual stuff, I have absolutely no patience, and I'm not detail oriented. I'm terrible at it. So, like, Movecraft is sort of in that vein for me, where it's like the technical shit, I'm great with that. I was the first person to figure out how to do flying moves because it mattered. Like counting the frames and changing, that stuff. But when it comes to like actually animating the moves, I'm fucking awful. So, Yeah, I mean, my thing is I don't play like we're talking about taking a break from Fire Pro in the chat for people who watch this afterwards and don't have the chat. And you know, I took a so I've been around a long time. I got into Fire Pro with Super Fire Pro X Premium for the SNES and or the Super Famicom. And I got into that one, and then I went straight from that one because I didn't have a PlayStation at the time, so I didn't really get into G. I eventually got a PlayStation and got G, but I went straight from X Premium to D, and then from D to R with no break. So I mean, fuck, R came out in 2005. And so I went from 1996 to 2000, so almost 10 years without really taking a break from Fire Pro. It was like my main game. It's what I did when I played video games. And of course, you don't always have a ton of time to play video games, so it's not like I was on it, like 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day, 7 days a week or anything. But, it was my main game for a decade at least, and then probably longer than that because I didn't really tire from R until about 2010-ish. I started to slow down with R, and so I basically took a 7-year break from Fire Pro between when I started to really slow down with R and when World came out. So I mean, breaks are fine. If you got to take a break, take a break. I did other things. I got really into King of Colosseum 2. I started playing a lot more of that. That sort of thing. It served its purpose. Did its thing. But yeah. If you gotta take a break, you gotta take a break. On the flip side, what's the mod that has actually been the biggest impact on the game that was actually the easiest to code? Let's see, I'm trying to think. I want to say it was adding the conditions to the move list. Surprisingly easy to do. Lots of repetition, like it was it was tedious, but it was easy, and I think that added a lot. I would say move list conditions. Match pacing was actually kind of rough because you have to. Fire Pro doesn't. Getting the last move that was done is a giant pain in the ass. And you need to rely on that for, like, is this an appropriate finish? Like, has this been set as an appropriate finish? So there was a lot. That was actually kind of rough and hard to do. Otherwise, match pacing might be up there too.
10 minutes.
It's supported by the engine in the sense that it stores it in a really half-ass roundabout way, which is why it's even possible at all. But it wasn't storing it. It doesn't store it in quite as useful a way as you would need it to be to do that mod. So you have to kind of roundabout it and then recreate what just happened. So I mean it works, and I think it does a good job of it. Every once in a while you'll get the random thing where you're just like, that wasn't supposed to finish the match, but it did. I would say that in my testing that probably happened, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times out of maybe 1,000 matches. So it wasn't like a major thing or anything, but yeah, it definitely made a difference. And honestly, for me, the biggest thing, the most impact that anything has had on me is adding the 12,000 speed or 120,000 speed, because holy shit, I can't tell you how important that is for me for testing. So, if anything, actually, that was probably the most important change I made to the game, was adding the ultra high speed. Oh yeah, no, that can happen. If the game crashes out, like in a match or something, it's gonna fuck that edit's priorities. Yeah, because the move list match or the move list mod like actually makes those changes to the underlying edits information. Because that's how that works. It's not, they don't generate a new instance of the AI, they just reference it. So any changes that I make to an AI in the match, it's just a reference to the edits AI. So any changes I make to it, that's why sometimes you get zeroed out priorities if the game closes incorrectly or something like that, or a match quits inappropriately or something unexpected like that happens. It's because literally the mod is zeroing out the priorities. That's how it works. It zeroes out everything and then adds in the ones that are appropriate. So yeah, it's just it's an unavoidable thing. It's not so much a bug as it is just like, well, if the game crashes or doesn't exit properly, that happens. So yeah. It's annoying, but it's just kind of one of the things that you have to, yeah, I mean, that's life sort of thing, you just have to put up with it in order to use the mod. It's a risk. It's a minor risk, yeah. I think I've had it happen maybe like to 2 edits in the entire time I've been using the mod, testing the mod, etc. So, I mean, it's rare, but it definitely happens. Yeah, I know that they're not super hard to fix. It's just, you have to go and fix it. I think if I was going to do any kind of code cleaning, it would be on move lists because, when I was thinking about it, like, it was when I added conditions, I was like, I should go back and redo this, but I was like, I don't really want to. But it would be super hard, or it would be super easy to sort of, create a new instance of the wrestler params, which are what store all of the AI, what store all of the wrestler settings for an edit. So, like, an edit is really split up into a couple of different parts. It's the appearance data, which has all 4 costumes, the wrestler params, which has the AI, the move list, the skills, and the parameters, and then it has a couple of other like general settings. But those 2 things are really what an edit is the wrestler params and the appearance data. And so it wouldn't be too bad to basically create a new instance of the wrestler params and assign that to the actual player object that you see in the ring, which are not so there's edit wrestler data, which actually stores the edit in your save file, and then there's a player object, which are what actually does the wrestling, and both of them have a wrestler param class attached to them, so they have a wrestler param object attached to them, and it wouldn't be too hard to create a new instance of the edit data's wrestler param and assign that to the player object instead of just referencing the edit wrestler's wrestler param object, if that makes sense. I'm sure if you program, that makes sense, so Good might understand what I'm talking about, but if you don't program, that's probably, a bunch of gibberish to you. But yeah, that would be one thing that I would probably do some code cleaning on at some point in the future. So, Good ass. Is it possible to refresh the move list priorities based on the edit? Is it possible to do the reverse and sync the in-game edits priors with them? Yeah, I don't see why it wouldn't be. Honestly, you could do it either way. You could change the first move in the move list and then hit, like sync to edit or something like that. Or I don't even know what you would call it, but yeah. Because when I say sync to edit, I think that it's going to take the edit information and make the move list sync to it, and not the other way around. But yeah, you could probably do that pretty easily. It's just, again, not something that I've thought of, so it just doesn't exist, but it wouldn't be hard. It's literally the exact opposite of what happens now when you hit the sync button. So doing it the opposite way would just be switching the expressions on the, around the equal sign, so. It might be good, Carl, to make note somewhere that Prios can get zeroed out if the game crashes. Yeah, the thing is that I think I've said it a few times before. This isn't like new, like a revelation where you're just like, where I'm, it's like, holy shit, that totally makes sense. It's definitely been something that I've been aware of for quite a while, and I've mentioned to people. But yeah, it might be good to just have like a general community-wide announcement that that's a possibility, because yeah, it definitely people could be unaware of that. So yeah, I will probably make an announcement saying that if you use move lists, to make sure that you close a match properly, and that if the game crashes during a match, that you may end up with zeroed out priorities or something along those lines, just so people are aware. Because yeah, it didn't really occur to me that could be something that people didn't know, because like I said, I had known about it and I had mentioned it before to people, but it's probably I'm sure that I didn't announce it to everybody. Also, for everybody who's in here, I can explain another bug that happens that I just kind of was made aware of today. So if you have a saved league or tournament and you use MC data files for moves, they will not, if the wrestlers in your league or tournament use MC data files for moves, those leagues and tournaments will be erased when you restart the game. It's just because of the order of things that happen, and there's not much I can do about that. It's not something that's going to get fixed. If you want to use MC data files, which sure, I mean, use them if you want to. That's totally fine with me. It's not going to hurt anything, but just be aware that that is a limitation of using them. And I actually didn't know that until I loaded up my game with because I set up this tournament or this league earlier today, and I loaded up the game, to when the stream started to start the tournament, and it was like, oh, this stuff is using information that doesn't exist. It's going to be erased, and it was like, well, fuck you. So, but yeah, that's what causes it, and there's nothing that can really be done about it. That's the way the game loads things, and so, unfortunately, that's just how it is. I mean, but most of us don't really play leagues or tournaments unless we're kind of manually doing it anyway. I think for whatever reason, there's been an influx of players who want to use the league thing. I think maybe because the G1 was happening, but it's like, Does it do you really need to use the built-in League stuff? I mean, eh. Anyway, so that's what's going on. If you're going to do a League, make sure that you can do it in one sitting if you want to use MC data files. That's basically my advice to you. And I doubt if this League will finish before, before this thing does it. It is a 32-man round-robin style league with a single match between the two blocks at the end. So, I mean, you're looking at a ridiculous amount of matches. And, I don't plan on being here for quite that long. It's already been almost 2 hours. I'll probably answer questions for maybe another hour and then call it a day. So. So here's a question for you guys. Has anybody taken a look at the tutorial, the programming tutorials, the modding tutorials that I've made? Just feel free to throw it in the chat. I'm going to answer Aaron's question here. On average, what's our new memory upper limit for moves and parts? I have no fucking idea. I think that for moves, I don't think that you have a upper memory limit, really. They don't take up any memory, like barely any memory anymore. How many are in the original game? Like 3,000? And I think that the 3,000 of them probably take up, I don't know, a couple hundred megabytes. So, yeah, I wouldn't worry about moves, because they're done the same way that, that regular moves are done now, essentially. So, yeah, I wouldn't stress it too much. That said, keep in mind that you still have about 4,500 active subscriptions before Steam starts to basically tell you to fuck off. And so, if you're downloading moves and you're not unsubscribing to them when you have got them in your game, then you're going to run into problems there way before you're going to run into problems with memory. So just unsubscribe, and you shouldn't really have to worry about it. I mean, if you don't have an interest in programming mods, you don't have to watch them. They're pretty dry. I mean, they're designed for people who are interested in writing code. So, if you have no interest in that, then don't torture yourself just because I'm asking about them. But yeah, so really what takes up the space is the custom forms. So if you think about the original game, so like the default vanilla game, no moves. How many forms are there? Like 40,000. So 40,000 forms takes up, I don't know, I want to say probably about 700 megabytes of memory. So, because that's actually the thing that takes up the most memory when the game is loaded into, when it's loaded up, and it stores all of that data in memory right from the bat, so it doesn't have to look it up every time, and which makes perfect sense. But so for like about 42,000 frames or something like that, the game uses about, I want to say, between 500 and 700 megabytes. So the custom frames are exactly the same. So can have about 42,000 of them and be expecting to be using up about 500 to 700 megabytes of memory. So I really don't see any problem with just going absolutely batshit with moves and parts and edits at this point, as long as you don't keep active subscriptions to things you don't need active subscriptions to. And that's, I guess that would be my advice, and that's been my advice. Do not keep active subscriptions to shit that isn't being updated. There's no need for it. There's no point, if it's not being updated and you keep a subscription, it's just one more thing that your game is going to query the workshop for, and the workshop wasn't designed for games like this where people are downloading like little individual characters and like the whole game is based on the fact that you have these. Like Fire Pro wouldn't work if you didn't download wrestlers from the workshop. And I don't think that there's any other game that really like has that model. And so I think Spike was onto something that hadn't been done before. And I mean, I can't think of any other game on Steam where players end up with 12,000 workshop subscriptions. But it happens in Fire Pro. And Fire Pro, because it was an untested model, or a model that people didn't really do, that just wasn't something that most games did. It was basically untested on Steam, and so Spike didn't know what to do. So they literally, when the game boots up, it starts sending rapid fire. What is the status of this workshop item? What's the status of this workshop item? How about this one? And what's the deal with this one? Just one after the other, coming from the same IP address with no pause in between. And if you're writing security code, that looks like a dedicated denial of service attack when you start getting 12,000 requests from the same IP address in like a matter of seconds. And so what the workshop ends up doing is telling your game, fuck you, I'm busy, go away. And that's what causes problems. It's what causes your game to freeze at the beginning. It's what causes your... sometimes new items won't download because the game deals with that busy message depending on which message it is. And I've gotten several back when I was doing my the install subscribed items mod. And that's why I added the pause in between requests, which is also why I've always told people, if you have thousands of subscriptions, you do not want to use this method, because it will take forever to get that window open. Because I've added about... It takes... I don't know, I think it's about... I know this seems like a really small amount of time, but I think it's about 50 milliseconds between requests. And so that actually keeps Steam from being angry that you're sending too many requests. But yeah, Spike didn't do that, so it just sends request after request after request after request, and yeah, you get DDoSed by or that's what the workshop is thinking is happening. It's like somebody is attacking us, so we're gonna put a stop to this. And then the game gets a message back, and if it's one message, it freezes. If it's another message, it just stops the downloading process and moves into the main menu. So, but yeah, that's why I do not recommend that you have thousands of active subscriptions. Check if you're going to subscribe to something, check when the last time it was updated was. If it was 6 months ago, after it installs, just go back to Steam and unsubscribe. It's not going to remove it from your game unless it's an edit part. You have to keep the edit part subscribed. So keep that in mind. Unless you're using local parts. If you're using local edit parts, you're good. But if you're using the workshop parts, you have to keep them subscribed. So save your active subscriptions for those edit parts. Get rid of it if it's a wrestler or a move or whatever. Anyway, the more you know, I guess. But yeah, so that's what happens with that. That's why you're constantly seeing people be like, well, my game stopped downloading edit or stopped downloading things, and it's like, well, how many subscriptions do you have? I don't know, 9,600. It's like, well, no shit. You know, of course it did. So yeah. There's no reason to not locally install edit parts. If you share, like, if you're Avenger and you share edits with edit parts, they need to be workshop parts. You can't share an edit with locally installed parts. So there are reasons to not do it. But, you know, if you're just a casual player and you're not, like, you know, making edits that you want other people to download, there's no reason to really have them not locally installed if you're a mod pack user, because you can use the full Wrestler export to upload it to the workshop, and you know you're not a major edit creator like Avenger is, who, you know, lots of people who don't have mods are downloading you know, Avengers edits, so he needs to be able to put them up there and not have to rely on the mod pack for people to be able to download them. He's just taunting you at this point, Will. He's yeah, he's got a ton of stuff. I'm lucky, and I'm in a special position where if I really want something, I can just kind of ask, and I've never had anybody be like, "Fuck you! What have you done for me?" So I can usually get anything I want. But I know that not everybody is in that position, and I'm definitely glad to be in that position. So. But yeah, I think most people, you know, so like, I think most people who don't share their stuff on the workshop are still totally fine with sharing it if you just ask. You know, so it just, I understand not wanting to put stuff on the workshop, to be honest. It just, yeah, it can be, you know, it can make your stuff feel less special. I know that sounds silly. I don't mean it like in that, you know, if you're sharing stuff with people and everyone can get it, then when you see the move happen in your edits, it feels less special. So I get it in a way, you know, to like want your stuff to be unique because you put the time and effort into creating this stuff. So, you know, I get it. That is one thing about the full Wrestler exports, though, is they don't give a shit who made what. If you upload a Wrestler with somebody else's stuff in it, it's just going to package it up and it will upload it. You know, and try to credit if you can. I know I need to go back and do that on my uploads. Most of my uploads, I didn't even think about that until right now. So I need to go back and credit some people for the moves and parts that are on my wrestlers. But for the most part, yeah, like just don't share it if they don't want it shared unless there's no way around it. You know, and just be cool about it if you do. Give credit, you know, that sort of thing. It's a pretty small community. There's still quite a few of the things. I've just gotten used to how yours look, you know, because I've had access to some of them for so long, that I like the way that Dakota's moves look better than some of the workshop moves, even though they might be a little smoother or whatever, you know. I mean, some of them are not, some of them might be. But I've gotten used to the way yours look, so I just keep those ones. Yeah. Good said that comes down to being respectful as far as like just asking for permission or giving credit if you know there's no way around it, that sort of thing. And yeah, that's exactly what it is. Just don't be a douche if you can avoid it. Yeah. So it's interesting to see the tag team partners face off against each other. I don't think I've ever had these two guys go against each other before. The guy with the chest hair is Masked Hero 2. The guy without the chest hair is Masked Hero 1. Together, they are the Masked Heroes. And they are the Pacific North Championship Wrestling Tag Team Champions. I'm actually surprised that more people haven't used Full Wrestler Export 2, because for the longest fucking time, people ask me, well, are you ever going to write something that I can upload, like, with all of the stuff to the workshop, and you know, and it's like, yeah, at some point I will do that, you know, and I finally did it, and now people, like, there's like 1 or 2 people who have used it. So, but yeah, I mean, it's not as... I can be useful for non-original character wrestlers, but it's definitely more useful for people with their, like, original characters and their own feds and stuff. Yeah, the Unchained... Like, people who download other people's work and then make small edits to it and then re-upload it annoy the shit out of me. It's the biggest reason that I have not enabled, just allowed you to edit, like, downloaded, custom moves, because I don't want to see people fucking downloading a move, deciding it doesn't do enough damage or does slightly too much damage, changing that and then re-uploading it. It's like, you did literally no fucking work at all, but you're still going to get all the credit like you made this, you know? Because there's no link back to the original. And yeah, some people are honest enough that they would add that, but there are enough people out there who are not honest enough that I just don't see that being a positive thing for the community. Yeah, Dakota pointed out that's the same song and dance with most highly requested mods, though. Um, yeah, no, that's true. Like, I know that he pointed out that everybody was asking for a poison, like, so I fixed the poison mist and the flames on custom moves. And that was a pretty requested thing. People always would bug me because I fixed a lot of Spike's shortcomings with certain things. And so they would ask me, like, are you going to fix that? And I'd be like, I don't know, you know, like, maybe at some point. And I finally did it, and I think Terrible is the only person who's uploaded a move to the workshop that made use of it. Everyone else, not so much. And then one guy on the workshop was like, well, you could do this with custom parts. It's like, yeah, of course you could do it with custom parts if you wanted to make, like, a whole custom fucking hand just for this one bullshit fucking move that has no other use anywhere in the game, and you have to assign it to the edit, you know, you have to use that hand on the edit that does the move. It's like, if you want to go through all of that rigmarole, be my fucking guest, but just because you can do something doesn't mean it's a good idea to do it that way. So, yeah. It's like, god damn it, just... Yeah, I don't know. Some of us don't want to use mods. It's like, well, that's great, but, you know, you don't need to give people who did use the mods and made life easy on themselves and on everybody else a hard time just because you don't want to use the mods or whatever, you know? It's cool. Don't use them. I'm totally fine with that. Like, I got nothing against you. for not using the mods. I just have something against you if you're gonna give other people a hard time for taking advantage of them, and so you're missing out on something. You know, like, oh, I would like this if it was done this way so that I didn't have to use mods. It's like, well, it fucking wasn't. Life is not fair. Suck it up. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, so we're talking. The chat has got into kind of the interest is waning topic. You know, people kind of growing out of Fire Pro or moving on, and it's you know, like I said, I've been around since 1996, so you know what, 20, a long time, like 24, 25 years now, and. Oh, it's got to be longer than that. Let's see, 96, 2006 is 10, 2016 is 20. Yeah, so I guess 24 years. Yeah, that makes sense. Because it was about a year after I got into programming.
3,
Anyway, so,
4,
you know, this happens. A new game comes out, you get a big influx of people. The people who will be here for the next game are probably the same people who have been here who were there for D, who were there for Z, who were there for R, you know, there will be a couple of new people who carry through, but a lot of people are just gonna peter out. It's just, that's the way that it works. You know, Fire Pro is not some fucking, so I was before Bethesda became fucking cocksuckers. I've been playing the Elder Scrolls game since the original, since Arena. So, you know, I was a big fan of Arena, and then I was a big fan of Daggerfall, and then there was a big fall off there. I mean, they had the offshoot, Dragonspire, and I didn't get into those as much. And then they did Morrowind, and it was great, and a lot of people picked it up at Morrowind. They had never played the earlier games. And the more people pick it up, the more you realize that the people who really carry on are like and really get into it are the same people that were following it from the get-go, and a lot of other people they'll get it because it's a big name. It's a big name, and it's a big deal when they come out with a new one. And so, you know, they'll get it for that, and they'll casually play it, and they might even enjoy it, but they're not gonna be the people who are, you know, like following it when the new one, you know, like when is the new one coming, and that kind of, you know. So, I mean, that's a way more, like, mainstream example now. But it wasn't back in the day. Like, no one I knew was following Morrowind, except for me. Because no one I knew had played Daggerfall, you know, at that point, you know. And so, you know, Fire Pro, I think with the Steam thing, it got way bigger than it had, even with the American release of R. And so the community, we blew up. Like, there's more people even in the community now than there was even in like the heydays of R. No joke. And so, you know, we definitely blew up a bit, but I think a lot of people are tiring of it. A lot of the old regulars, we've all grown up. We're in our late 30s or early 40s, where we've got family and kids where we didn't back in the day. You know, we're just less time to dedicate to it, so it's just, you know, like the core group is just kind of dead at this point, and so they were never going to stick with it as long as they had the other games. And unfortunately, you know, I don't know. Maybe some of the younger players you know, for World will carry on, but I just don't see it happening. I mean, some of the newer people who were like gung-ho about getting involved in the community are like Brick and Soak, and have already kind of gone the way of the dodo. I mean, I guess Brick is still around because technically he's still running Critical Club, if I'm not mistaken, but you know, it's like they're just not as active as they used to be, just 3 years ago. And it's like 3 years is not a long time in Fire Pro time. Um, you know, some of us played Returns when we played Fire. I mean, it was a constant for us for, what would it have been, 12 years, So 3 years is just not that long. So, yeah. But yeah, I think everybody gets what I'm trying to say. It's like, for some reason, everybody was super happy that there's a new Fire Pro, but it just didn't have the staying power that other games did. If I wasn't modding it, I don't think that I would still be as into it as I am. It just doesn't have it for me. Like, it wasn't enough of a step up to kind of stand on its own. It was cool, but once the new car smell wore off, it was just too much like the other ones. And we had been playing the other ones. Some of us had been playing the other ones for, 20 years when this one came out in early access. So it just wasn't quite as much of a game changer, I guess. Yeah, Will pointed out that Returns came out when you had a lot more free time in your life. Yeah, that's exactly it. A lot of the people involved in the community were younger. When Returns came out, a lot of people were in their early to mid-20s, or even teenagers, some of them. And they had a lot more free time and a lot less responsibility, and were able to dedicate a lot more time to it. And that makes a big difference. But the people in that age, the point I was trying to make is the people in that age range who are new, who came in with World, they don't seem to be as dedicated as the old group of people who came in with Returns, for whatever reason. I don't know what that reason is, but yeah, it seems like a lot of the younger people who came in with World are already sort of like moving it out of it, just sort of, okay, it's cool, I still like it, but I so who knows though, maybe I'm wrong. So, and like I said, I think there's something to be said that this just wasn't as big of an upgrade as it really needed to be to. God, all the tag... Oh, it's a league. I'm like, all the tag teams are fighting against each other. But I'm like, everyone's gonna fight against everyone else. I'm a dumbass. It's a fucking league. Well, shows you how much I run leagues. 2020 is just a weird fucking year. Yeah, it's been kind of a trash year all around. It's not been super great for me, or my wife, or anyone else, I don't think. It is what it is, though, Yeah, I can't chalk anything up to motivation. I'm pretty motivated to do stuff, but I don't know. Like I said, if it wasn't for the programming side of Fire Pro, if it wasn't for modding it, I don't think I would still be as into it as I am. I'd play it from time to time. I'd create wrestlers in it from time to time, but it certainly wouldn't be like a major, like a staple video game for me. I probably would have moved on to other things. So, how about, does anyone have any suggestions for mods, not just like is it possible, but just even suggestions for changes to existing mods or suggestions for new things, just anything interesting that people have thought of. You know, a lot of times I have these AMAs, and then some major mod will come out of it just because somebody brought it up, and you know, it's like, well, I didn't even think of that or whatever, you know. So, you know, outside of things that I've mentioned are not possible currently, like loading new models or whatever, is there anything that anybody has been like, I wonder why this isn't a thing? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I am with modding. Like, you'll notice that the test version slowed down a bit this month and stuff. I'm seriously tapped on ideas. Like, I really don't know what to add. I'm like, I feel like I've added almost everything that needed to be added or that could be added aside from a couple of things, and I don't know what's left. So really, I'm crowdsourcing ideas. I'm farming ideas from you people. Oh, I just thought of an answer to a previous question. Somebody asked which mods I would like to see people use more. And just for my own selfish interests, I would actually like to see people use the basic skills editor and the botch mod more, just because they would have to create botched move animations and new basic skill animations, and so then we'd have more of those to go around too. And so, yeah, I'd like to see people take advantage of those to kind of answer an older question. Costume you know, yeah, sure, why not? I mean, it wasn't removed because it was like because it was a technical impossibility with the, you know, when I went from 1 point whatever to 2.0. It was removed because I didn't think people really used it, and it wasn't important for me to carry over. It would have meant a new form, you know, recreating another form, etc. So yeah, I mean, it just wasn't moved over because I got lazy more than it was a technical impossibility. So yeah, I mean, that could definitely make a comeback if people are interested in it. I mean, and I think now that we have, well, I think it was limited in application because you had to pick an existing taunt to trigger the costume change, but with PartsCraft, you could actually create taunts that, you know, actually matched the costume change sort of thing, if that makes sense. And I would probably, I think I'd set it up so that it would work similar to how alternate attires work now, where you wouldn't have to change it between one of the 4 costume slots like you did in the old one. It would just load a new costume when it happened. But yeah, no, that could definitely come back, and I'm already thinking of some interesting ways to bring it back, like I just mentioned. So yeah, no, that's something that could be worked on again. But yeah, I mean, as far as I think that's the only thing that hasn't come back from the old mods. I'm trying to think of other things that I completely removed. Mist colors, no. It interferes with the blood, the chest blood, and so I think that blood is more important than mist. So no, I don't think there's any chance for the mist colors to come back. I'd rather have the blood than the mist. So I think blood is definitely more important for wrestling than the mist being recolorable. Plus, the mist coloring only really half worked because if you changed it to anything but to anything that was lighter than the green, it would still come out sort of green, and it was just, yeah. It just didn't work. It didn't work super well. If I was gonna bring it back, I'd have to come up with some new way to do it. I mean, there isn't any reason that I couldn't just load a new. Instead of trying to redo to edit the one that exists, there's no reason that I couldn't load up Unity and create a new particle animation for it that used white particles and made it recolorable, and then added a new, basically a new edit part to the chest instead of trying to recolor the original one, etc. You know, I mean, it's doable. It's just, I don't think that I'm gonna do it. So the asymmetry mod, so it, again, I don't know, this might be confusing to people who aren't, like, familiar with the terms and whatnot, but, I'll try to keep it as 5-year-old friendly as possible. But basically, the asymmetry mod didn't work because, one, it used a really ridiculous way of initiating itself. I'm not sure that the guy who programmed it was, I don't think he poked around well enough to find like a better way. But it literally, like, it didn't initiate itself till the beginning of the match. And that was a problem with the mod pack, because the mod pack does all of its initiation stuff in other methods that fire before the match. So it had some issues there. It used... So instead of modifying the renderers that did exist, it just added new renderers, and a renderer is just what... A sprite renderer is what puts the sprite on the screen. So it would literally, instead of editing like certain renderers to display a different image, it would move those renderers off screen and then add new ones, which is not efficient, and makes it hard to work with, because then if anytime I'm trying to access the renderer and it was a mess. It worked for what it did. And it worked well for what it did. It was not glitchy or buggy or anything, generally speaking. if it wasn't used with other mods. It became glitchy and weird when you tried to use basically any other mod with it. So it just wasn't. The way that it was programmed was just not compatible with the way that the mod pack makes changes to things. That's the long and short of it. Is that he had a different way of doing it. Yeah, and I mean, me and Dakota actually worked quite a bit privately to try to get things to work. We did eventually get a version that worked with the mod pack as long as you weren't trying to use alternate attires. But again, you have to give up all of the benefits of entrance attires, alternate attires, automatic title, putting the title on your wrestlers when they win it without having to manually do it, that sort of thing. But, it just... And for me personally, the giving up the entrance attires and the title stuff and alternate attires and stuff wasn't worth it just to have, one pant leg, I guess. It worked. It does not work anymore. And like I mentioned earlier, I don't even know if that guy is still playing Fire Pro. He may not be, for all I know. He may be done with Fire Pro, and so there may be no chance that it's ever updated. No, I answered that one too. No, asymmetry is just, it's not that interesting for me. We tried to get the way that he did it with the extra renderers. I've tried changing the renderers. I think that the way that he did it, as messy as it was, is the only way to do it. Because I've tried changing renderer text, I've tried it other ways, and it just doesn't work reliably. And so the issue is that if I did it, I couldn't think of a better way to do it than what he did. And what he did is not compatible with the mod pack. And so there's not much reason for me to work on something that most people are not going to use. Because most people are not going to give up mod pack stuff to use asymmetry. And, I mean, if I'm being honest, it's just not something I'd use. I don't... It's way more common in women's wrestling that outfits are asymmetrical. I don't use women wrestlers almost ever. It's not something that interests me. For some guys, you might want to do it with, okay, well, he's only got one elbow pad, or, that sort of thing. But it's so infrequent that it just doesn't matter in men's wrestling most of the time. Guys with two different colored pant legs or another. It's like, yeah, I mean, I guess that happens from time to time. But, I mean, it's really infrequent for the most part, so... Unless you're doing a lot of women edits, it's just not that important. And I'm not, so it's like, I don't know whether I want to invest my time. Yeah, I mean, I could see some applications for it. Like I said, I mean, there are some things where it could work, but I mean, we have such a shitty lack of tattoos, and Partscraft is not making up for our shitty lack of tattoos, really. So I just, are people really gonna use? Are people really gonna use it for tattoos? You know, considering the relatively small choice of tattoos that we have. And honestly, let's face it, you know, if somebody made an asymmetry mod, there isn't gonna suddenly be a huge influx of new tattoos from Partscraft. So, I don't know. That's kind of how I feel about it. It's like, yes, it's a really cool concept. It was a really cool little mod. It just, it was too much for FirePro to really handle, and then handle other things on top of it, for lack of a better way to phrase it.
One. One.
I'm surprised this hasn't gone wildly off topic. Usually somebody asks me about some modern wrestling stuff, or comic books, or anime, and I get wildly off topic. I'm also bummed that there was no FPW player today. I was hoping he would show up and ask me to sim Fat Carl, and ask me questions about horrible things because he he hates me. Who knows? Did he review did he review Movecraft? Because that'd be a good way to tell if he's still around. I haven't even looked. I'm sure that if he reviewed Movecraft, he gave it a bad review, based on the fact that it probably something along the lines of, it causes people to have to use the workshop more, and the community has ruined the workshop, and Spike won't do anything about it because the community is so toxic. Yeah, that guy's a fucking, what a mook. Yeah, I'm sure that guy reviewed it and gave it a negative review. I remember looking through his reviews one day. It was when I was going through and marking them all, because he basically accused me of molesting children in all of his reviews for some reason. So I was going ahead and marking them all as inappropriate and having the moderators take a look at them. And it seems like he only writes negative reviews. I don't know what kind of person has the time for that. If something is... I'll write a negative review if something is, exceptionally bad, or if I have a lot to say about, certain aspects about it. But it seems like he just writes negative reviews for the sake of negative reviews. And it's like, dude, why dedicate that much time to something you don't like? You know? It would be like me trying to give, going on to, rate your music or something, and giving every fucking Deftones album a shitty review because I don't like the Deftones. It's like, you know what I do because I don't like the Deftones? I don't fucking listen to, think about, care about, or go out of my way to be around anything relating to the Deftones, and it works out perfectly, you know? So, if you don't like something, just don't dedicate your time to it, and it's all good. Yeah, August 31st. So it's been a while then, huh? About 2 months since he's really messed with Fire Pro or uploaded anything. Yeah, maybe he's moved on. I hope so, because that dude had an unhealthy obsession with me. It was... Do I use any basic skills editor animations? I use a couple that I had, yeah. The throw out and basically ones that altered the throw out animation. The one where I think you made it where he throws him over the top rope and then kicks him off the apron. I used that one. I lost it, actually, when I had the computer crash. So right now I'm not using any. But yeah, I had that one. I had one where he threw him over the top rope, like Gorilla Press style. There were a couple other ones that I used as well. I had somebody had made a different, like, turnbuckle head ram. Like, you know, where they hold him by the back of the head and slam. Yeah. Somebody made a new one of those. I had that. I don't know where I got that one. Trying to think of what else that I had. But yeah, I think I had a couple, but not many. I also replaced some of the counter moves with different different moves. So, like, I think I replaced the pinning power bomb with a whipping power bomb, just so that it didn't pin anybody, even though I have the extra skill that keeps that from happening, you know, that sort of thing. So you found his review of Movecraft. Is it negative? I'm gonna put money on the fact that it's a negative review. It almost has to be. That's just patently untrue. Like, I don't... That's just not the truth. That whole negative reason just doesn't make any sense, because they did the opposite of that. So yeah, what a schmuck. Even with 6,000 edits, it wouldn't matter. I mean, what a schmuck. It's like he heard us talking. He got into the Discord, because we know he hangs out in the Discord, because he's copy and pasted things that I've said in the Discord to try to make me seem like a terrible person. But it's like he got into the Discord and saw us talking about the flaws of the old Wazamake method. It was like, I'm gonna shit all over Movecraft when it comes out for this, without even trying it, because fuck that. Yeah, exactly. I think he just, like I said, I think he saw that we were concerned that could be an issue way back, and just ran with it and didn't even try the actual the Movecraft, and just assumed that was still a problem. But yeah, that's just patently false. No, but he did say that he did repeatedly tell people that when, that when Movecraft was released that no one would use the mod pack because the only reason that people used it is because of the custom parts and moves. But that has turned out to be not true. So, you know. Yeah, and I hope so. Like, you know, we're talking. I'm joking about him now because he has actually. I have one of his accounts actually banned in my in here because he has come in here and trolled during streaming, and so I'm teasing him now, but I really hope that he's moved on because I mean, it got to the point where it was unhealthy. Like, he was seriously like, if you remember, I don't know if anybody remembers the reviews, but for people who maybe watching this video in the past and wondering why I'm bringing him up or what significance he had, or they're being like, well, you're the one talking about him now. So this guy, he reviewed every Fire Pro DLC and the game, and at one point he literally had like multiple paragraphs in each review, and I don't know, there are what, 9 DLCs for Fire Pro and the game, so that's 10 reviews on Steam with multiple paragraphs about how I molest children, how I'm some crazy rapist, just like all sorts of weird stuff, all because I allowed a wrestling edit to be uploaded to the workshop that had custom parts and people could download it and it would ruin their game. And then I tried to take steps to fix that. Well, the fact that I allowed it once the first time was enough for him to like hate me forever. And so, yeah, he made all of these crazy things about like how I'm some crazy child molester and how I'm a weird rapist. And he would also delight in telling me that I was a virgin. Somehow, I don't know how those two things can be true simultaneously, but in his brain, it works out. So, but yeah, I mean, and we're talking like paragraphs, like, you know, 5, 6, 7 sentence paragraphs, several of them in each of these reviews, you know, like basically attacking me and going totally batshit. So that's why I'm bringing him up. Like, I think it's funny. He has tried to troll in here and everything. So that's why it's getting brought up. It's just an amusing sort of thing. February 9th. So he is basically, it seems like he might be done. Because that's quite a, I mean, fuck, that's quite a long time ago. That's like pre-America caring about COVID, which seems like almost a lifetime ago. So yeah, I don't think he's coming back to fix the. I don't think he's coming back to fix whatchamacallit, the. What do you want to call it? You know what I'm trying to talk about. Asymmetry. The Asymmetry mod. I don't think he's coming back to fix that. If the last time he really, like, uploaded anything or did anything with the game was all the way back in February. So. He did make some okay stuff. I think that he was involved with, like, a weird eFed that was mostly interested in, like, I don't know, Dragon Ball style stuff. And so a lot of his stuff didn't have much use for me. But some of it did. I mean, the Asymmetry thing was pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I just remember, like, he had a member of the eFed that he was part of and was writing mods for, who was also in the ModPack Discord server, who would DM me from time to time, you know, asking about how to get certain things to happen, or if, you know, like I had an interest in making them, or, you know, that sort of thing. Oh yeah, no, the Goro Arms mod was pretty cool way back when it came out. That he did like a multiple arms mod before I think that the Partscraft mod would have been is like the much better way to do it. Somebody did Goro arms with Partscraft, and they all move because you can actually animate them to say like, well, when the upper arms are in this position, the lower arm should be doing this. But yeah, definitely was a cool little mod. He did some cool stuff. Apparently, he had some experience with Unity. And I openly admit that I had almost no Unity experience when I started working with the mod pack. I had plenty of programming experience, but I hadn't really worked with Unity at all. So I had done a little bit of it in modding for 7 Days to Die, but even then, I tended to avoid messing with Unity stuff and stuck with kind of writing my own classes. So. Oh yeah, no, Alaska's entrance options mod was great. I used that. That was so. I'm also notoriously, I've been pretty vocal about the fact that I don't use anybody else's mods really. I think that View and Ace have done some cool stuff, but I use Ace's automatic set to CPU because I don't really ever play, so it's easy for it just makes it easy on me. And I think that's pretty much it. As far as other people's mods are concerned, I don't use other people's mods. So, but I used that one because that was just pretty cool. I did a lot of, like I said, he's more interested in like weird Dragon Ball style shit. So some of the options were like, this guy's gonna teleport, and it's like I'd never fucking used that in my life. But some of the more, realistic, like mods that was pretty. Those were pretty cool, like the realistic entrances that were part of that mod. So. Yeah, wasn't he also had one where they would like do the kind of like weird, they'd run down and then do like the, I don't know, Sin Cara like trampoline over the top rope into the ring, but they'd critical themselves. That one was pretty interesting too. And I mean, if you were making a Sin Cara edit, it seems like it might be kind of realistic. Or at least WWE Sin Cara. I'm not like an amazing connoisseur of lucha, but I definitely remember Mystico being slightly more capable, for lack of a better word, than WWE Sin Cara. And I know that he started as Mystico, and then they did, they changed who was playing the character multiple times, so who knows. So yeah, I mean, who knows? But definitely could have been real for at least one of the WWE incarnations of Sin Cara, to have him critical after the jump into the ring. A DQ? How did that happen? Did the... Holy shit! Nice! The referee DQ'd him for the loaded boot. Good job, Ted Denoda. Yeah, see, usually he has a manager down there, and I've set that loaded boot to actually have, now with the extended move flags, when he starts the loaded boot, it triggers a manager interference, so the referee can't DQ him. But since this match, since the tournament doesn't have managers, he just got DQ'd for kicking the dude with the loaded boot. Very nice. Yeah, that's something that I don't think Fire Pro has enough. I mean, well, I didn't have any mechanic for is like non-submission or non-looping, just illegal moves. Like the referee has no way to deal with it. And so, yeah, I really appreciate the the new illegal stuff and everything. That way we can get some DQs and stuff like that. Yeah, the one thing that it doesn't, like, one thing that I guess I kind of would like to maybe expand upon would be, so even if the referee is busy with the interference, it still counts down. So one thing that I might want to try to change at some point in the future is that if the referee is busy, to not have the interference timer countdown, so it doesn't count down till the referee is able to handle it or able to be like aware of the interference. But yeah, right now it just they get I want to say that it's about a minute roughly of interference time when they interfere, generally like a real life minute, not an in-game, not an in-game minute. So, but yeah, it would be nice to just, if the referee is distracted, to have that not count down. So it actually makes a difference if the manager is distracting during the interference. So it's getting to be 6 o'clock my time, which means that I have been at it for about 3 hours answering questions. So I'm going to put out one last call for questions, and you guys got about 5 minutes to get them in. I'll answer any that come in. But I think about 6 o'clock here, because it's 5:54, that I'm going to wrap this up and call it an evening. I still have to go get stuff. I bought pork chops for dinner, but if you were here earlier, you will know that my wife wants BLTs. So I have to go buy the stuff for BLTs. So... yeah, I got nothing better to do. I'm good at being nerdy. I thought you were gonna go do something else good. You were here the entire fucking stream, even though the first thing you said to me when you got here was, I don't think I'm gonna be here. No, not even Subway BLTs. She said, ew, that's not a BLT. And so my next response was, well, I can make them for dinner. So I kind of volunteered and got myself into it. But it's okay. BLTs are good. Yeah. She saw this picture. Let's see. Copy image address. There we go. Oh, good lord. I don't know whether that's gonna... But yes, that's the image she saw, and she went, ew. Ah, okay, that makes sense. Good. I actually like Subway for what it is. I mean, I miss when they were a little cheaper than they are now. I don't know whether some of their sandwiches are worth the $8 or $9 that they're trying to charge for them now, but I don't mind paying, you know, like $6.50 or whatever for a meatball sub from Subway. They're good. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you're not getting like a fucking spectacular fucking meatball hoagie or anything. It's just a, you know, pretty average fast food meatball sub, but sometimes they can hit the spot if you don't want a burger and you want something fast, you know. I love that front, the knee tackle from the front. Such a good move. Chop block, that's the word I was looking for. These guys both use a variation of the figure four to or of, I guess not a figure four, but a leg lock to finish matches. So there's going to be quite a few chop blocks in this match. Oh, man, I am sore from sitting for this long. So, I guess since no one else has any questions, and it is a minute away from 6, I'm going to wrap it up here. If anybody needs me for anything, I will be around in the Discord chat. I think almost everybody here is part of the Discord, but in case you are not, let me get the Discord link for you, and I will post that one more time. And then I am out of here. Let's see. Go up here. Invite. Let me edit the invite link. Never expires. No limit. Generate new link. Copy. Go back here. Paste this in. But if you are not a member of the ModPack Discord, that is how you become a member. It is basically a free-for-all, so if you are an extra sensitive human being, you are not going to have a good time there. But you can download the mod pack from there and then just not participate. That's fine too. and I will be in there off and on all evening, probably. And I'll be back tomorrow night on YouTube, not live, but with another tutorial for, Fire Pro modding. So be on the lookout for that if you are interested in following the modding tutorials. But otherwise, y'all have a good night, and I will catch you later.